Our New Testament reading comes to us this morning from the 4th chapter of the book of Acts, beginning with verse 32. Now the company of those who believed were of one heart and soul, and no one said that any of the things which he possessed was his own, but they had everything in common. And with great power the apostles gave their testimony to the resurrection of the Lord Jesus, and great grace was upon them all. There was not a needy person among them, for as many as were possessors of lands or houses sold them, and brought the proceeds of what was sold and laid it at the apostles' feet, and distribution was made to each as any had need. Thus Joseph, who was surnamed by the apostles Barnabas, which means son of encouragement, a Levite, a native of Cyprus, sold a field which belonged to him and brought the money and laid it at the apostles' feet. This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God.
Reading through the book of Acts, and what to make of all these stories. What is this about? And the function of it, I think, reminds me of one of the really glorious nights of my life. Lisa and I were up in the mountains, and her mom and her mom's siblings were all alive at the time, and we had dinner together, sitting around the table. Dinner finished, 6:30 or so, and then everybody sat there until it must have been midnight. And they told stories and more stories, and they laughed and they cried. And why I didn't push record on my phone, I don't know. I'd give anything to have that back. And when people do this, it's glorious, it's a lot of fun, but you have to understand what people are doing when they do that. They're enjoying it, but they're also saying something bigger. They're saying that this is who we are, this is who we have been. This is our identity. This is what matters to us. These are the loves of our lives. These are the commitments that we have been through for so long. And it's just a lovely thing to see that happen. The book of Acts is like that. Early stories from the church, it's not just, those are interesting stories. This is the church saying, this is who we are. This is our DNA. This is what it means to be church. Now, in a lot of ways, there's a vast gap between that early church and ours. For instance, we have buildings. We got buildings, right? We lost the sanctuary. We could come here. We could lose this next week. We'd go to assembly. We got buildings, right? They had no buildings. They met in the marketplace. They gathered in people's small homes. They didn't have these kinds of numbers, all kinds of differences. For them, their community was whoever was physically present. Although Paul had some vision about this, he didn't want the community just to be the people that were physically present. So you know this, he wrote letters to Christians in other places, so they extended their reach. They were part of people who were in other cities where he once had been. We have sort of an analog to this now. Like we have the people that are in the room, but then we have people that are watching us online. You guys watching online, you're part of us. Actually, we've got this new technology and we can see you. It's a thing. Anyway, you're part of the community. We have this extended reach, and it's absolutely a beautiful thing. There are other differences between the early Christians and what we're about, but the biggest single thing, I don't know how to describe this. I don't have the right word. I've used all morning the word collision. There is a huge collision between the way the book of Acts says we ought to live our lives and what it is for us living in a capitalist economy. Let me say that again. There's a massive collision between the way the book of Acts says we should conduct our lives and what it is for us living in a capitalist economy. And what do we do about that? Over and over in Acts, you heard it from Tom's reading, is this. No one said that any of the things that he possessed was his own. No one said that any of the things that he possessed was his own. And we can ask, what is this? Is this socialism with a smile on its face, right? Is this communism with a living God? What is this all about? I have a friend, Willie Jennings, who teaches theology at Yale. He put it this way. He said, the early Christians were so enthralled with Jesus Christ that their possessions just didn't matter to them any longer. Like, I love that idea. This can actually happen to you in your life. You become so enthralled or so caught up in something else that your possessions don't matter. A lot of times it's when there's a tragedy or something, right? You're just like, oh, those things you thought mattered 5 minutes ago don't anymore. Willie says they were so enthralled with Christ that their possessions did not matter. And I don't know if you caught it when Tom read the passage. It said, no one said that any of their possessions were their own. And then the next sentence is, and with great power, the gospel went out and people believed. Those two were connected. There was something about the way people lived that was really compelling to people that didn't know anything about Christianity. They were drawn into it because of this peculiar lifestyle. Some of you know that recently I've been reading a lot of Dietrich Bonhoeffer. And Bonhoeffer, a number of places, says the greatest sin, sort of the primal sin, is cowardice. Cowardice. And what is cowardice? Cowardice is fear. This is why you're a coward, is because you have fear. In the book of Acts, cowardice isn't the primal sin. In the book of Acts, the primal sin is, I'm sure this is right, possessiveness. Possessiveness. And what is possessiveness? It is, like cowardice, fear. We get possessive because we have fear that it might run out. We won't have enough. Whatever. The sky might fall. Possessiveness. I just got back night before last from Italy. That sounds like, oh, that's an exotic place to go. I was working, just to say. Our high school seniors went on a St. Francis pilgrimage. And I got to tell you guys this. Like, I tell you this, you picture, I don't know which thing about high school kids. Our high school kids in this church, I'm sorry, they put the grown-ups in the shade when it comes to spiritual depth, wisdom, zeal for God. People say, like, oh, you were so good to spend your time with high school seniors. No. They were so good to let me be with them. I learned so much. I grew so much. I was so blessed by being with them. Anyway, we're tracing the steps of St. Francis. And Americans get confused about St. Francis because they think about what? The garden behind your house, or a bird bath, or this sort of thing. Francis was a radical, bold, courageous, and amazing Christian. And one of the things that we focused on one day while we were there, we came to the place in Assisi. It's a beautiful little city piazza there. And it's the place where Francis had the ultimate parting with his father, Pietro. They'd always struggled to get along, and then they couldn't get along, and Pietro never spoke to his son again after they parted. And what they parted over were possessions. And the best way I can put it is this. Pietro, Francis's father, he was an up and rising, successful cloth merchant, powerful guy in town. For Pietro, he was like us. His possessions were his, and he gave some of it to God. His possessions were his, and he gave some of it to God. Francis, his possessions were all God's. Do you see the difference there? Pietro's possessions were his own, and he gave some to God. Francis's possessions were all God's. And it absolutely changed everything. It would actually change a lot of things. Sometimes, like I whine about this every now and then. When I retire, I think, what will I not miss about my job? And the part I will not miss, number one on the list, is having to nag you guys to give us money so we can meet our budget. Sorry, I know you think I don't have feelings about this, but if we all took the posture of all that I have is God's, none of us said that any of his possessions were his own, we'd have absolutely no trouble raising all the money. But instead, what we suffer from, we all get it, it's a possessiveness, it's a fear. It's a fear. This goes on. By the way, while I'm on this, I was online, people. I'll talk to you for a minute. You guys can listen in. have a text group with the pastors of the largest Methodist churches in the country. And we talk about various things. And the other day we got to talking about online viewers and do they give money to the church? And most said, like, they don't really get much from online viewers, occasionally a little something. But then one guy said, oh yeah, one of our biggest donors every year is a guy that lives all the way across the country. We've never laid eyes on him. He's never been in our building. We had a capital campaign, and he made one of the 3 largest gifts to the capital campaign. He doesn't even live here. I said, Adam, can you give me this man's contact information? Can you make an introduction? Yeah, we're all together in the church, and we're all making this thing happen. The early church thrived and grew so much because that wasn't an issue. No one said that any of the things that he possessed were their own. You can be possessive about other things, by the way, and you know this. I personally am frankly not very possessive about money. I think I grew up, my parents were children of the Depression, and they pinched every penny. They were nervous all the time that they would run out of money. My mother had it hidden in the mattress, you know. And I think I saw that and I thought, man, I'm not going to be tight with money. I'm going to be generous with money. But I do have a possessiveness, and for me it's mostly time. I get possessive of my time. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want others to waste my time. But I find an interesting thing with this. When I get possessive with my time, this is not good for me. When I'm possessive with my time, I get kind of grouchy. I get kind of tense. I get kind of anxious. And sometimes I catch myself and I say, I'm not going to be possessive with my time. I'm just going to let it go. My time is yours. However much time of my time is yours. And when I do this, I smile and I loosen up. It's just a glorious thing when we let go of our possessiveness, whatever it may be. There's a tremendous joy in this. What are we possessive of? Different things, your time, yourself, your skills, your place. I heard a cool story when I was in Assisi that I hadn't known. I've been there many times. I hadn't really tracked that during World War II in the city of Assisi, they harbored hundreds of Jews and protected them successfully from the Nazis, didn't lose one. So hundreds of Jews came to Assisi, and they hid them everywhere. They hid them in cellars and in people's closets and basements and the back of businesses. And just everybody had Jews all over the city. It just was crammed full. So much so they thought, like, we're at our limit. So a Jew walked into the city, and he found the bishop. His name is Bishop Nicolini. And he said, Bishop, can you guys shelter me? And the bishop said, they were just full. Every place that I know of, somebody's there already. Then he paused and he said, well, there are 2 places that I know of. There's my bedroom and there's my study. And he said, I guess I could sleep in my study. Right. His room was not his own. It was for someone else. Here's the important thing that I thought of for today. I was working on this sermon, and I wouldn't have arrived at the following if it were not for Taylor. I was thinking about Taylor leaving, and I kept thinking about this phrase, no one said that any of the things which he possessed was his own. Here's the most important thing. Some years back, we put Taylor in charge of our young adult ministry, and she's done great. And if I say that to you, I know what some of you are thinking, right? You think, oh, young adult ministry. I actually met Lisa in a young adult ministry here at Myers Park Methodist Church. And I remember this thing, like it was fun. We came together and somebody played a guitar and we drank Ron Hall's iced tea, and it was just a lot of fun. Some people coupled up and got married, it was great. Young adult ministry, it just sounds like what it ought to be, right? Taylor's done something very different with young adult ministry. Some of you here, you know what I'm about to say. They have fun. But also there's a deep, deep sharing of the heart. No one said that any of the things that he possessed was his own. And by that I'm thinking about fears and wounds and sorrows and darkness. No one's afraid to share anything. It's all welcome. Sometimes it spills over my way. And I talk to our young adults, and they tell me what's been shared in our young adult group, and I'm just in, my jaw drops. I'm so happy. I'm so overjoyed. This is a place of hospitality. as a church should be, our youth. You hear youth group, I don't know, you think youth group, oh, they have fun, they go on ski trips, they have a lot of fun together. Isn't that neat? High school kids doing nice things. Our youth group here, they do actually the same thing. Kids come here and they share awful things, deep things they can't tell their parents, things that are really hurtful, things that at school somebody might laugh at them or make fun of them, but here they tell it and they're welcomed and they're loved. And it's just what church is supposed to be. No one said any of the things that they possessed in here were their own. Our church is getting better at this. It's a long journey. I've been here 22 years. My first year here, this terrible thing happened. There was a woman, she came every Sunday for a while. I was getting to know her, and then she vanished for about 3 months. And I ran into her at the Harris Teeter, and I said, hey, missed you in church recently. She said, I've really been struggling lately. I've been sad. I'm really at a bad place. When I get better, I'll come back to church. And I just thought, oh my God, we got it backwards. This isn't the place to come and say, I'm fine, you're doing fine too. I'm doing great, aren't you doing great? I'm sorry, you can do that at a tennis club. You can do that at a bar. You can do that anywhere. This is the place where we come and we do not say that any of the things that we possess are our own. They belong to the community. They belong to God. We belong to one another. Uyan Kim, Dr. Kim, bless his heart, I gave him a crack at preaching last week, and then he stole my stuff from this sermon. Like, come on. What was in this sermon before that is what Mary says to Frodo in The Lord of the Rings, which goes like this. You can trust us to stick with you through thick and thin to the bitter end. You can trust us to keep any secret of yours closer than you keep it yourself, but you cannot trust us to let you face your troubles alone and go off without a word. We are your friends, Frodo. Friends, we are our friends here. This is what God did. The reason we do this is what God did. God didn't keep what was God's to God's self. Barbara Brown Taylor preached this great sermon where she imagines God is in heaven and God announces the plan. I'm going to go down to earth and be an infant. And the angels are like, oh, bad idea. The people down there are crazy and they will hurt you and you're just an infant. I mean, go down as a warrior with an army. But God's, no, I'm going to go down. God doesn't keep God's self to God. God is always giving what is God's for us. That's the nature of God. That's what grace is. That's what mercy is. That's where the joy is. Church, we do not exist for ourselves. We're the one organization I know. We do not exist for the benefit of our members. We exist for the benefit of those who are not here, who don't like us. We're the church for the world. We're the church for the world. I'm almost done. It is the early Christians in Acts conducted a utopian experiment, and so did St. Francis. St. Francis said, let's live together as like really poor people and see how that goes. And it was really powerful, and it changed the face of Western Europe. The early church said, let's have a utopian experience. Let's live together where we share all of our possessions in common. If you are a crusty student of history, as I tend to be, one of the things that you know is all utopian experiments ultimately fail. But we need them. A utopian experiment shows us what we're missing. A utopian experiment shows us what afflicts us. See, what we miss out on is the joy. If I say my time is mine, I am afflicted. If I say my time is yours, I'm liberated. If I say my things are mine, I am afflicted by possessiveness and fear. But if I say that it's all God's, I'm just liberated. I mean, Taylor, bless her heart, I'm going to give her something special as a gift. And I decided the other day I'm not going to buy her anything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find something that is so valuable to me, something that I really love. And if you've ever done this, you give that thing that is so precious to you to someone that you love, and you just love them having it. And you have so much joy because it's not yours any longer. No one said that any of the things he possessed was his own. Bishop Niccolini, trying to go to sleep in his study, I don't think he grumbled. I think he was so happy that one more Jew was sheltered in his bed. so much life, so much joy. Let's try to make some progress here. No one said that any of the things that he possessed was his own. It's God's way. Thanks be to God.